energetic with the penultimate tour in Dublin. So, whatever vitamins you're on, I want some.
Well, I'll tell you what was really quite extraordinary was not really knowing. I mean, we had picked out the different areas where I felt like, oh, here comes Lana, great,
Yes, wonderful.
fabulous. Um, each reading had such a unique character to it,
Yeah.
and I could not have anticipated the extent of that. I mean, because some of them were truly connected to Titanic sites. Some were iconic literary venues, so they had those different feels, but each
Mm.
one, regardless, like, um, had just such a special feel. We were in Skibbereen with Mish Maroney, the editor of Swerve, at the Lit Lounge, and we ended up doing. It felt like now the venue only will hold. It's like an attic, and so it's very intimate.
Mm.
And it'll only hold like 25 people. And of course, we had like 10 just our readers, right? But it was almost like we were having the way that the attic space looked. I felt like we were on a ship.
Wow.
And we
Yeah.
were like, oh, and we were reading, we sat in a circle and read just the poems in the round. And
Lovely.
Mhm.
Afric McGlinchey was with us, the only time she was with us on the tour. Matthew Gaden was with us. So also each reading was its own unique constellation of readers.
Mm,
Wow.
mm, mm, mm.
Hello, Lana, and welcome.
Hi. Thank you for
Hi.
having
Hello.
me.
Oh my
Yay,
Hello,
God.
your
everyone.
sound is great and your lighting is great. So now we just need Indron to appear as well. Sandy, there's about 7 minutes before program time. I
Right.
will let you all know that as you're reading, I will be sharing your biographies as Sandy reads them out loud. And then I will be sharing links to more information about you and your work and links to purchase points for your collections. In the case of Indron, I think inside the Zoom, he's going to be inviting people to email him because of where the book was published and that he will receive copies back in the US and be able to send it to them personally himself. Um, but he and I worked that out in advance and it'll all be fine. And and then tomorrow I will also uh amplify all that information again through Facebook. And please feel free to share or pass along any of that material as you continue to promote your wonderful new books. We're so glad to have you. And
Yeah, for just letting
otherwise, once we
in.
get started, I will be quiet and be in the background. And if you see later on that Don heads out a little early for a family event, and it's Mother's Day here in the
Oh,
States, and he
yes.
has an event this
Congratulations to all the
afternoon.
mothers. Yes.
Um, so I will make sure, Sandy, that the live stream is closed and the recording is stopped on time after you make your
Thank
closing
you.
remarks.
Thank you so much, Kim.
Have a wonderful reading, everyone. About 5 minutes till showtime.
5 minutes. There we go.
Now, the good news is Indron is not here, but even if he slips in, he's a old hand at this, so we won't worry.
Yes, he's been with us many times, and he kind of rolls like this. We're not
Yeah.
panicking. If it was
Thank
another
you in advance,
person, we'd be a little
everyone.
worried, but we kind of know how things go, so it's okay. And just a reminder, the order that again will be going in is Michael, Nessa, Indron, and then Lana. And Lana, have we done a little sound check with you yet? And welcome and thank you for your beautiful books. Oh my,
I think Kim said I was good.
yeah, yeah, you sound great. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't ever, yeah. I just like to double check because The one time we don't double check will be the time when something's happening and we don't know
Mhm.
something's happening and all that nonsense.
Right.
I
Yeah.
usually, for your introduction, well, when you're reading a lot, or when you're reading maybe alone, I usually do bring out.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so I just want to show it to you in honor of you. I'm not going to probably show it during the.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Sandy.
I,
Yes. You
I
know, I'm actually having a book come out that has a portion of Starry Night on the cover because that's how much of an addict I am to that
oh my
painting.
gosh.
So it's going to have a little excerpt of the painting on it,
Oh,
which I'm
that's
excited
beautiful.
about.
Well, we continue to let people into the room, everyone. And we'll be doing that just in the first couple minutes. So, hopefully, don't worry if as you're seeing people come in. Um, and we're doing that behind the scenes. It's a very nice crowd. Welcome to everyone who's already in the Zoom room with us. We've got just about 3 minutes to go before we begin our just exquisite new book showcase for May. I'm thrilled for this particular constellation of wonderful humans joining us with their beautiful collections, which, with the exception of Indron's, I don't have. I've recently been able to acquire all of the collections. I've been enjoying them. I'm trying not to make special requests, but I'm not going to make special requests. But I'm just astounded and in awe of the work of which I was before anyway, because I'm familiar with all of your poetry and so grateful to have the four of you together. I think you're really going to be in beautiful conversation with each other. Um, and Kim, nice work, nice work. Kim put this particular constellation together very, very quickly as I was just getting back from Ireland. So we're very, very happy to also be able to feature your books when they're so new. It's really nice from time to time to be able to have folks whose collections have just been launched and just come out. So all right, well, we're just about a minute away or so, and we're still letting folks in. Um, um, Again, if you're just joining us in the Zoom room, welcome. It's our new book showcase here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry. Always the second Sunday is our new book showcase. And those of you in the audience, just to let you know, if you have a new book coming out, we book we book quite far in advance usually. It just sometimes we have some strange things happen and we have beautiful gaps and we're able to do fun things. But if you know that you have a book coming out, uh, we consider a new book 1 year from publication date, and we right now are booked into early 2027. So you might want to give us a shout out if you have a new book coming out. Send us an email to cvlivepoetry@gmail.com. Just as soon as you can, we'll put you on a list and start creating those constellations for 2027. All right. Well, good afternoon, good evening, bienvenidos. Kedmila Falcha, my friends, 100,000 welcomes to all of you here on Cultivating Voices Live Poetry for our weekly reading. And this week we are featuring our May New Books Showcase. And today we have a powerhouse of poetry and poets in the embodiment of Michael Durack, Nessa O'Mahony, and Indran Amir Thanayagam and Lana Hechtman Ayers. I am so excited for this unique constellation of poets to come together and share their work with all of you. And I want to also give a big shout out to last week's readers. The theme for our Poets Focus for May, the word mind. And we featured the wonderfully mindful Laura Gerard and Nathan Spoon and all of you on the open mic. Thank you so much for your participation. Today, it's, well, Lana, I think you're going to read from both of your new collect. Oh, just the one. Okay, very good. Four new collections to astound you with their mastery of poetry today. But before we pivot to today's feast, again, a few reminders that Cultivating Voices Live Poetry was founded in March of 2020. We are an international, intersectional, intergenerational Facebook group and reading series, and we have over 5,600 members worldwide in our on our Facebook group. So if you are listening on our recording for the first time, if you found us on YouTube or found us on Facebook, please feel free to join us on Facebook, where you'll get to see every week announcements of upcoming readings from the world, literally from the world, as well as announcements for upcoming uh, calls for publications, and build community. We've had so many people make enduring connections with each other, people being discovered and bringing out their first books after having met someone right here in one of these Zoom rooms. So we hope that your participation today in the Zoom room with us and or live with us on Facebook or on YouTube will glean some wonderful connections for you in the world of poetry. Well, and now just a couple of other reminders before I introduce our first poet for today. Our chat here in Zoom is live, so please do show the love, the respect, and mindfulness, of course, as you're leaving comments in the chat. And for our readers, of course, you'll be receiving those after the reading, and no worries. Don't worry about reading them during the reading. They will be abundant, plentiful, and quite laudatory, and you'll enjoy spending time with those. And thank you in advance to all of you leaving the comments. And of course, this is a new book showcase. So please do consider buying 1, 2, 3, 4, or multiple copies of these astounding new collections that you're going to be hearing today in this constellation for the very first time, and maybe the only time in this constellation. And I think poetry, there is no better gift than the gift of poetry. I truly, truly believe it. So this is a wonderful time of the year. To any day of the year is a good day for poetry. So please do consider purchasing those books. They will be listed in the chat for you, along with the author's bios. And if for some instance you miss that today while we're live, tomorrow on our Facebook page, you will find all the links to all these new books today that you're hearing from. Well, let us get to this incredible bounty that we have available to us today. I am so grateful to our first reader to have been able to pick up Michael Durak's collection, Look In. It's just a few weeks. I was able to pick that up just a few weeks ago when I was in Limerick, which is the home city of his publisher, Revival Press. This will be Michael's third book since we began hearing his work on Cultivating Voices, and it's a pure joy when we can celebrate new work with an old friend. And now, the more formal biography. Michael Durak lives in County Tipperary, Ireland. His poems feature in publications such as The Blue Nib, Skylight 47, the Cafe Review, Live Encounters, the Banyan Review, Drawn to the Light, Haight-Ashbury Literary Journal, the Stony Thursday book celebrating this year its 50th anniversary, if you are not aware of that, the Honest Ulsterman and Poetry Ireland Review, which we'll talk about in a little bit as well. He is the author of a memoir in prose and poems, Saved to Memory, Lost to View, from 2016, and 4 poetry collections published by Revival Press in Limerick. Where It Began, 2017, Flip Sides from 2020, which was his first book that he shared with us here in our new book showcase, This Deluge of Words, 2023, and the new collection, Look In, from 2026, of course. Please welcome Michael Durack.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Kim, for inviting me and placing me in the company of such a fine cast of poets. The title is Look In, and maybe I'll start by reading the title poem. There's a randomness about a lot of the poems in this collection, and I suppose the title is an invitation to dip inside the covers and maybe find something unexpected. The phrase I associate with an uncle of mine who lived up in County Kildare, and he used it ironically, so I will find it difficult to replicate his ironic tone, but it says a multitude, and that's why the exclamation mark follows the 2 words as well. So the poem is also bookended by 2 allusions to great plays, Shakespeare's Hamlet at the start, and John Millington Synge's The Playboy of the Western World at the end. Look in. Faithful to Polonius's assertion that brevity is the soul of wit and tediousness the limbs and outward flourishes, my uncle would remark, look in, while seated in a corner of his local pub. Look in. Spoken wryly, shorthand for, look what the cat dragged in. Look in. Betokening the unexpected entrance of no grandee, luminary, top banana nor salt of the earth, pillar of church or state. A signal more like, a verbal smirk, acknowledging the arrival of some oddball, maverick, reprobate or wild colonial boy, a cowboy, loose cannon or ne'er-do-well. If Christian Mahan were to poke his head inside the door, and he destroyed, walking since Tuesday was a week, having killed his father with the blow of a lie, he'd surely catch my uncle's words, look in. So that's the title poem. And in the collection is in 4 sections, and the first section is mainly about language, the craft of poetry, and includes poems written in a variety of established forms, pantoum, villanelle, triolet, and there's 1 rondo, which I'll read. It's on the subject of writer's block, and I'll read it with apologies to serious exponents of the rondo form, and also with apologies to the Beach Boys, because I couldn't resist the pun on the title of one of their great hits from the 1960s. So the poem is called Help Me, Rondo. Help me, rondo, sonnet, or villanelle. Any form with power to break the spell of this stubborn, stifling writer's block. Maybe free verse will help me unlock the imprisoned muse. Only time will tell. I dip my can in the waters of Helicon's well once more. Pluck up the courage to knock on Parnassus's door, but all to no avail. Help me. Rondo, sestina, pantoum or villanelle, help me escape this writer's block hotel. Silence, but for the ticking of a clock, a blank page. Beach Boys or TikTok, Ronda or Rondo, heaven or hell, help me. Thanks very much. The next one is a very short one, and it's a triole of sorts. And it's about an actress whom I was very keen on in my late teens, in the 1960s. And the poem focuses on her, I presume, two most famous roles. It's called Girl on a Bicycle, Girl in a Bus. Unforgettable, that would be Catherine Ross, lurking on the handlebars of Butch Cassidy's bike, or bridal costumed in the back seat of a yellow bus with Ben, the graduate. Etta, that's Catherine Ross, in distant Bolivia, caught up in that outlaw chaos. Or Elaine in California, demure and ladylike. Indelible memories of Catherine Ross on the bus and the bars of Butch Cassidy's bike. Thank you. Yeah, I'll move on to a different theme. I live in County Tipperary in Ireland, and in the northern part of the county, and down on the southern edge in the town of Carrick-on-Suir, there was a great Irish poet, Michael Cody, who died a couple of years ago. I'm sure Nessa is very familiar with him and his work. And I was fortunate to meet Michael on a number of occasions. I got to know him. And Michael has written a number of poems about transformed landscapes or streetscapes and about vanished structures, buildings, etc. And these poems resonated with me because the farm on which I grew up in Tipperary, in rural Tipperary, was more or less obliterated as a result of the building of the motorway, the M7 motorway. So this poem is called Recycled, and I've included as an epigraph a line from a Michael Cody poem. There, as clear as day, it all no longer is, from The Invisible Hotel. On the M7 motorway near Junction 27, look out for those fields of tillage and pasture and find them, in Michael Cody's words, no longer there. In Lower Manhattan's Battery Park, crane your neck for the steepling twin towers that have been utterly recycled to air. In cool Fort Henry and Garry-na-Teneil, sleepers and rails recycled where a throbbing branch line's no longer there. In town and in country, nostalgia buffs seek out factories, ballrooms, cinemas, all recycled, no longer there. In Gaza, war's erasing apparatus wreaks its daily obliteration, its nightly transformation. Hospitals, schools, streets and houses, no longer there. Mineral, vegetable, animal, human, recycled to dust and air.
Thank you. Michael, before you get started,
Yeah.
I noticed that the recording had just stopped, so I want to just interrupt for one moment and see if we can get that recording back up. And I think Don is probably working on that. Let me see. Let's just wait one more moment. Sorry for the interruption. Don, shall I go on, Don?
I think we're okay. Let's just keep
Okay.
going. Yeah,
All right. I don't see that it's recording, so it had said that the
it's
recording.
okay. That's okay. It's recording on Facebook.
Very good. Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Michael.
No problem, Kate. Okay, no. I've included in this collection a 10-poem sequence on the endurance expedition to Antarctica led by Ernest Shackleton back in 1914 to 1916. Endurance is my Titanic, I suppose, if with reference to Kim and Sandy and their involvement with the Titanic project. But the Endurance expedition was looked at objectively an absolute fiasco. The ship never reached the Antarctic landmass. But out of that failure or fiasco came a remarkable story of survival and endurance to match the name of the ship. So I'll read one poem from that sequence. The ship was beset in ice not long after it headed for Antarctica. And then after drifting helplessly with the ice currents, it had to be abandoned and it sank. And then the men camped on the ice for 4 or 5 months before having to take to the lifeboats and search out whatever shelter they could find. So that's where this poem begins, when the men were leaving the ice for the island of, turned out to be Elephant Island. And the poem is called Hussey's Banjo. Hussey was a little meteorologist who played the banjo. £2 per man, the weight allowance for the personal belongings of the men of endurance. When they abandoned the ice floe they named Camp Patience to hazard survival on Paulette or Elephant Island. 2 exceptions to that £2 limit: the surgeon's medical supplies and Hussey's musical instrument, a 5-string zither banjo that Shackleton deemed brain food and vital mental medicine. So, while the James Caird rode the monstrous waves of the Southern Ocean, seeking a lifeline in South Georgia, the men on Elephant Island formed a male voice choir for Saturday afternoon concerts in the Snuggery or Billabong. And the little meteorologist with his 6-tune repertoire lifted their spirits. They say the penguins, though repulsed by his Scottish airs, warmed to It's a Long Way to Tipperary. At the mercy of fate, back up beyond, 22 men sheltering under 2 upturned boats, the stuttering notes of Hussey's cheerful banjo perforating the endless Antarctic winter night. Thank you. I mentioned at the outset that there's a randomness about many of the poems, and there's certainly an element of serendipity about this next one. I was browsing on Google Maps, looking at the names of local townlands in my home parish of Newport in Tipperary and neighbouring parishes. And the name jumped out at me that I hadn't come across before. It was the name was Controversy. And the irony is that I grew up maybe 4 or 5 miles from this place. And only now did I discover that there is such a townland, tiny 30-hectare piece of land. Its Irish name was Talamh an Clonper, meaning the territory of the disturbance or whatever, controversy. So the more I looked into it, the less I found out about controversy, because it didn't have much to boast about. So it did produce material for a poem, so I'm grateful for that. Controversy. Not looking for controversy, I found it 4 miles from where I grew up, as the crow flies. Controversy, Talamh an Clonper. Staring back at me from my iPad screen, a place I had not known existed, but Google knew. Its all-seeing eye identified Controversy as a townland in the county of Tipperary, in the barony of Oney and Ara, in the civil parish of Killascully, an irregular pentagon, a 30-hectare patch of ground. Farnee to the west of it, Garone to the north, Monia to the east of it, Gortshan to the south. No trace of settlement and controversy, though a road runs through it. The national census had no truck with it. Griffith's valuation took no heed of it. Not a soul, it seems, courted controversy, was mired in controversy, or tainted by it. Controversy excited no interest, good nor bad, controversial only in name. That's my controversy. I don't know how I'm doing for time. I just have a few short ones lined up to finish. Another element of serendipity is in this next one. Sandy and Kim are regular attendees at a Zoom forum based in Cork and Limerick called Lime Square. And coming up to Christmas each year, Lime Square issues a challenge to its members to write a poem including 5 words that are randomly assigned. It's called a 5-word challenge, and we all do our best to try and meet the requirements of the challenge. So last December, the words assigned were heron, killing, dulcet, dust, and understated. So not much in common between those 5. But they pointed me in the direction of Wales and the Welsh poet Dylan Thomas. Maybe it was the heron, I suppose, was the prompt. So I wrote this little poem called Dylan Thomas at Larne. And Larne is the setting for Under Milkwood, a famous radio play. And it's situated just a few miles from Fernhill. Dylan Thomas at Larne. Over Sir John's hill, the fiery hawk on his killing spree, the small birds sacrificial, and the stately heron bowing on the priestly shore. Meanwhile, from his dusty writing shed, the poet sends forth his whirl of language, breathless, not understated, dulcet, not jangling, a shape-shifting murmuration of words, brimful above Fernhill and Milkwood. Okay, 2 more little ones. I live very close to water. Lough Derg, one of Ireland's largest lakes, the River Shannon, which is Ireland's longest river, and there's a canal running beside the river also. So when I hear a helicopter hovering above, I am kind of reminded of something somebody said to me one stage, that helicopters and water don't make for a great match. That there's an element of foreboding about hearing the sound of a helicopter over a water feature. So if I can find this. One Sunday I heard a helicopter very low over my house, and it landed in the grounds of a local school. And sure enough, the news that followed was not happy news. So, helicopter, silencing the shrill notes of robin and willow warbler, a great bird in an azure sky, a noisy blackbird hovering, metallic wings rotating, the vigilant chopper bird drawn to river, lake, canal. As gulls stalk trawlers bringing home their catch, it shadows jet skis, cruisers, sailboats, has eyes for those who take to water out of a sense of fun, adventure, despair. The search and rescue bird, augurer of hope, the search and recovery bird, harbinger of doom. And I'll finish up with a little poem called Ice Jet. Every August, we take our grandchildren to a seaside resort in Salt Hill on the outskirts of Galway city. And we go there to spend time on the beach and at the adjoining fun fair. So the Ice Jet is one of those rides that the more daredevil member or grandchildren love to go on. IceJet, Galway, Salt Hill, Curry's Fun Fair. Grandchildren board a sled car of the IceJet ride. We wave, take photos from our smartphones. Before the thing kicks off, accelerates. 2 minutes in, they are hurtling by at 100 kph. We strain to catch a fleeting glimpse of them, to catch a glimpse of their fleeting childhood. There one moment, gone the next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Michael. And the new book is Look In from Revival Press. And I just want to note a couple things. A reminder that, of course, links to purchase are in the chat for those of you with us here live in Zoom. And I really do love this kind of the window image on the cover, you know, that invitation and the fact that the wall of the book, which would be the wall outside the window, is like totally black, almost in silhouette, and it's really drawing you to what's beyond that window, what's inside the book. And of course, being the Titaniac I am, when I was reading, I, you know, felt that affinity with the endurance and was really so pleased to see an entire section there, as well as what I feel like is one of your signatures, which is using forms, but also always referencing, you know, music and popular culture. And the book is really chock full of what are your wonderful signatures that you have in your poems. Help Me Rondo. A great marriage of the two. Thank you so much, Michael, and congratulations.
Thanks. Looking forward to hear the other three readers.
Yes, thank you. Well, and with that, let us move on to our next reader. I was also going to say that really water is kind of that, or the ice of the endurance and the water of Lochar, where actually I was around water a lot this time when I was in Ireland. I really spent time with the rivers in the cities I was in. I made sure, and I didn't know that it was going to be a harbinger of spending time necessarily with Nessa's new collection, Daughter, in part about a very special river in her life and lifeblood and being. Well, my joy at having Nessa O'Mahony join us today is matched only by my sadness that I missed seeing her read at her launch by one day. And I know you don't know this, Nessa, but I almost changed my plane ticket so I could go to the Strokestown International Poetry Festival just to hear you read. I wasn't able to finagle it, but and people in this room know that I was talking about doing it. It just didn't happen. So I am incredibly fortunate, having missed it by just hours, to have her with us with her new collection, Daughter, from Salmon Poetry, so close to her launch date. And as I was saying before the program started, it's really special. We're not always able to have folks join us right as they're close to when they're launching. And it's been really special to have poets like Michael and Nessa be able to join us so close to after us visiting and reading in Ireland. So thank you so much. Well, here's the more formal biography for Nessa O'Mahony. Nessa O'Mahony was born in Dublin, and she has published 5 books of poetry: Bar Talk, 1999, Trapping of Ghost 2005, In Sight of Home 2009, Her Father's Daughter 2014, and The Hollow Woman on the Island 2019. Her sixth collection was published just this April, and she has edited journals and anthologies, including, and this is very, very near and dear to my heart, the Poetry Ireland Review, issue 138, tribute to Evan Boland. And if Nessa joined us during a tribute that we did here on Cultivating Voices as well, in 2021. Nessa has written fiction and nonfiction, and she is an associate lecturer with the Open University and has a PhD in creative and critical writing from the University of Wales, Bangor. Please welcome Nessa and her wonderfully beautiful new collection, just out from Salmon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sandy and Kim, for the wonderful invitation. It's my first sort of online reading of the book, so I'm still kind of finding my way in terms of a set and how things go. And it's such a pleasure to be in the company of Michael and Indran and Lana as well. So thanks so much for letting me be part of this. I think Daughter, I'd describe it as my midlife crisis book, but that would give me a life expectancy of 120. And I don't think that's in anybody's best interest, especially mine. But the poems in it, I suppose, did really reflect a sort of a reappraisal, if you like, an unease, a nervousness about going into my 60s. And that was before I realized that I was going to need major surgery a few days after my 60th birthday. Um, but I suppose things were sifting as well, in that I was, along with my four brothers and sisters, now part of the sort of ongoing care team for my elderly mother, who has dementia. Brilliant, wonderful, wonderful woman, just forgets a bit. And I think some people in the room may have had the experience of a parent and having responsibility for that parent in a way that one didn't before. And again, writers being writers, poets being poets, it's all very personal, isn't it? You're kind of looking at your beloved parent and thinking about what that means for you, I suppose. So that was all feeding in. And so the book ended up being a sort of a tripartite meditation on identity and relationships and what were you now in your 60s. And the river, the daughter, became an important stand-in, I suppose, because immediately after the surgery, and people may know, you can't lift anything heavier than a teacup for about 6 weeks, and you're very limited in how you can exercise and where you can walk. So the Dodder is a river, 27-kilometer river in Dublin, that goes through my neighborhood, and I grew up on its banks, if you like, not literally, but would go for walks with my dad there. So it was flat enough to allow me to start getting back into regular walking. And as I walked along the river, I was thinking, well, I want to write about my experiences now, but I've done the concern about, illness in the past, and people aren't interested in this, and what can I do? And so the plan became how to write about the river and how to imagine the river as a person. And then gradually that person became a sort of a cranky post-menopausal woman. Surprise, surprise. And so the center section is, poems both in her voice, but also a more objective voice. And then the third section of the book allowed me to sort of explore places that I love, but, perhaps places that are under threat of development. Pay tributes to writers who I'd loved and lost. So I think there's a transience going throughout the book in different ways. So I'll begin with a couple of the Mammy poems. I did give the book to my mother, and she read, and having initially liked them, forgot that she liked them and said, "Well, I don't know who wrote those poems, but they're very pretentious." So that was my first review. But I'm still here, guys. I'm still here. So this is sort of a typical experience that people may recognize of sleeping back in your old bedroom, um, sleeping over. Back in the bedroom at the front of the house, where the door still rattles and streetlights seep through torn nets. Alert at whatever hour is too early, too dark to make out the titles on the shelves that I should know by heart, haven't the heart to recover. I strain for a sound from the next room, but my mother has the child's sleep I knew 50 years ago when my sister teased me with secrets. Back then, I couldn't dream those dreams might evade me, that this safe place might host anxious counting of hours of things done or undone. There's a reason why the aged don't share the future. That sleeper knows, keeps it snug to herself. And Mum, one of the things that Mum has absolutely not forgotten at all is music and the songs that she learned in school. She learned with her aunts in County Mayo in the 1930s and the 1940s. And there's one that she continues to sing now, which is, people may know versions of it, Going Home. Going home, going home, I'm a going home. And again, it struck me as I listened to this, that there were different types of home now. So this is spiritual. Mam has been singing for days, the same quavering notes heard through walls. She still has phrases, I'm a going home, and the broad shape of her journey, not far, close by. The place has no name. We've long since abandoned any address that would tie her to daughterhood, parenthood, widowhood. But somewhere, her mother expects her, her father waiting too. When she asks me what home she's going to, I look away, try to shut out notes that breach every wall. This is a poem I'm incredibly proud that, you know, I'm unlikely to see my gravestone, but there is one place in County Galway that has my name on a plaque on the wall, and it's a poem about the Claddagh ring. I'm wearing it tonight, as I always wear it. My mother gave it to me. My father had given it to her. And so they have a poetry trail in Galway City, and they carve into stone selections of poems that have relevance to the city. So I was so proud and chuffed when I was told that they were selecting this poem, Claddagh Ring, to go on the actual Claddagh Ring Museum on Shop Street, where it was bought. So this is the poem, Claddagh Ring, for my mother. Two hands, one heart, a coronet, bought on Shop Street, tied with a bow for 50 years together. One hand veined blue, tremoring on his lap as he learned patience in corridors and waiting rooms. The other wore it proudly, till flesh shrank on bone, the gold loosened. Their daughter wears it now, heart inward on the middle finger to show she's taken, that two hands grasped hers tightly once, loosely later, her heart crowned with love. So it's still there. It's still there. So it sort of moves. I don't write love poems, especially not overtly love poems. I did want to get into an anthology of love poems that was being edited by Joseph Woods and Leanne Quinn, called Romance Options. So this was a big challenge. How could I write romantically? So this is the best I could do. There's a line a quote from William Shakespeare's The Seven Ages of Man, which I'm sure people are familiar with, which references the sixth age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon. We took our vows, and now between us we comprise one decent body. My shoulder takes the load while you apply heating pads to a throbbing muscle. Your right wrist can twist any jar lid imaginable, while swollen joints make my grasp questionable. My legs keep pace with collie pulls and hill slopes. You see the small print when my squint proves too faint for detail. We have one breath to which you exhale as I lie in the dark, holding mine, counting insomnia's minutes. Your ragged metronome keeps beat with the ringing in my ears. As I said, not the most romantic of people. I'll give you some river poems because that's what the book is called. And the river, the Irish for the river, daughter, is on Dothra. And in fact, the word daughter, the Anglicization was probably taken from that. But on Dothra, if you look at the various sort of Irish dictionaries, it means river. So tautological title for a river if ever there was one. So on Dothra, and it's in the voice of the river. Named before time, so when they came to make a map of me, they reached for the nearest word to hand, made harder sounds out of softer ones, stuck syllables together that male lips could spit out with minimum effort among the monocles and whiskers of the academy, stating the obvious, calling me what I am, river, my real name, hidden under quartz and cowberry. So this river is a tributary or a companion or a sister to the larger river, the Liffey in Dublin. As in all families, there is sibling rivalry. And this poem reflects this. It's called Never Were There More Devoted Sisters. Your one gets all the attention. Just because she rises further west, goes deeper down among mountainy men, she's given the title of Main River to that pile of dirt downhill they call the capital. And then the nonsense starts. Who begot who? Who's a branch, a bleeding tributary? Who gets bragging rights to the feather beds and the state she keeps them in? Which of us was first in Ptolemy's map? Gets the most mention in books nobody reads anymore. And all that Latin, what a poser. She's nobody's daughter, no high king or god or cupbearer, just a trickle of wet silt that gravity makes greater. I do have two sisters, but I wouldn't claim. No. People were real people were reflected in these poems. So the final daughter poem of the sequence is there's a source poem, and then the final poem is To the Sea, because the daughter enters the Irish Sea in Dublin Port in Great Grand Canal Dock, where it joins the Liffey, and together in harmony they go out to the Irish Sea. They say when you turn 60, you become invisible. Try 60 millennia of rising, trickling, flowing, spurting, curving bank sides, pushing industry's wheels, slaking the thirst of dirty dubs, rinsing their muck, their nappies, johnnies. Sticks and stoned till the tide urges, water thickened with bladder wrack, the egrets pick round, and the salty air's raucous with seabirds. I trundle on, loosen my stays in the sight of two bridges. A church can't stop me now, the gap's widened, the lock opened. They say I join the sister. It's the other way round. The muddy old Broad can't keep up with me in the last dash to sea. And don't be giving me guff about evaporation, clouds and restarts. You can take those watery cycles and shove them where the sun don't shine. So, sublimation. I'm just going to finish with two. And Sandy mentioned the lovely tribute that Cultivating Voices did for Yvonne Boland in 2021 that I was proud to be part of. I wrote a poem in her memory, which is included in this, and it's set on an island called Valentia in off the coast of County Kerry, and I try and get a holiday there every year if I can. And it mentions a killeen, which is the Irish word for an old sort of burial ground, traditionally where people buried unbaptized children. But in many cases, they were based on much older, perhaps, 4,000, 5,000-year-old places of commemoration. So this particular killeen in Valentia is one that has had activity for 4,000 to 5,000 years. Killeen, in memory of Yvonne Boland. You'll find it on the highest road transcribing the island from sea to mountain top. Watch long enough and patterns of stone, angles of earthworks reveal careful placement, the habits of memory. 3,000 years they have come here, honored their dead, buried their shame, consigned their prayers to fire, smoke, ash, a small bundle of cloth. Unnamed even in God's eyes, but remembered century after century. If not the loveliest spot on the island, it's the most forgiving, offering the warmest embrace of bog and grass, where nothing grazes, not even the hares run through it. And I'll finish with another poem which was written in memory of a writer. I'm not sure if Breeder Wall Ryan ever took part in any of these readings. Wonderful Irish poet who died 2 years ago, far too soon. And this poem was written about a year before she died. She'd had illness for much of her life. And about a year before she died, she led a poetry walk in the Botanic Gardens in Dublin. And it was the most amazingly brave thing. She was in her wheelchair. Her breathing, she had difficulty with her breathing, and yet she was still determined. It was a cold November day to read the poems, share the experience, show us what she saw in this lovely landscape in the Botanic Gardens. So after she died, another poet, Keith Payne, contacted a lot of us and asked us, could we maybe put together a little brochure of poems that they could give. She was in the hospice. Actually, sorry, forgive me. She was in the hospice. She hadn't quite died. And could we write some poems for her? So I sort of sat down and wrote this, and not realizing that they'd give it to her to read. So it was one of the last things she read, to my great pleasure, that she got a chance to see how I felt, how we felt about her. Audience at the Botanic, in memory of Breeder Wall Ryan. Botanic Gardens, Glasnevin, November 2023. That morning, we would have followed you anywhere, though you'd laid down the path with perfect care, planned the route tree by tree, line by line. Each stanza just right for the view of soaring trunks, of specimen plants, of redwoods, of light glistening on glass on the great palm house. What mattered a raindrop or two? You gave us the reason to pause and listen. A tiny bird, breast red and damp with November, hopped to the wheel of your chair. You were always the poet who could stop robins in their tracks, still their song for something sweeter. Thank you.
Beautiful reading. Thank you. Thank you so much. I was thinking about been thinking about the metaphor and the physicality of the metaphor of the river, and that phrase in the poem for Ivan, the habits of memory and the memory of habits. You know, that both sides of that phrase are true. So they really, like a river, they course all through this collection. Daughter, the habits of memory and the memory of habits, through lived experience, and just so gracefully, so tastefully, so sonorously done. Beautiful, beautiful work. Thank you so much, Nessa. Congratulations. And I look forward to the next time. I hope the next time I see you will not be as brief, and get you to sign the book, of course. Thank you so much. All right, friends, we move along now to a person that really needs no introduction here on Cultivating Voices. Each person here today has a really special connection with Cultivating Voices. We talked about Michael was with us in the very early days, Nessa being with us for the Evan Boland tribute, and Indron has also been with us in our very, very early days. And in fact, Indron, you were one of the very first poets to ever read in a New Book Showcase. So you are an incredibly prolific poet, translator, ambassador of poetry wherever you go. And I always feel so honored that you always find a way to kind of bring your river back to us here, and always come back and share your new work with us. And I'm always so grateful because you are able to travel far and wide, bring your poetry vastly to numerous places, and I appreciate that you always come back to share it with us. So here is the more formal biography, though, of Indran Amirdanayagam. Indran Amirdanayagam writes and translates in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. And we have heard poems of his. I believe you have shared poems from all those languages with us here on Cultivating Voices. He has published 30 books of poetry, including his newest, White Space Sonnets. Isla Itinerant, El Bosque de Delites Fratricades, Seer, The Runner's Almanac, Poet Non Po, Poet of the Port, The Migrant States, which was the first collection he brought to our stage here on Cultivating Voices. I can see it on my shelf in my old house, sitting as my backdrop, which I kept there for many, many, many months. The Elephants of Reckoning, which was winner of the 1994 Patterson Poetry Prize. This is just to name a few of the 30. In music, he has also recorded Rencontre d'Out. He is the publisher at Beltway Editions and edits the Beltway Poetry Quarterly, writes his own blog spot, and pens a weekly poem for Haiti on Marche and El Acento. Indron also hosts the Poetry Channel on YouTube. I do not know if you sleep, my friend. I do not know if you sleep. Indron has received fellowships from the Foundation for the Contemporary Arts, the New York Foundation for the Arts, the U.S. Mexico Fund for Culture, and the McDowell Colony. He served as the 2022 IFLAC World Poeta Mundial, and he was Matwala's Poet of Honor in 2025. Please welcome our dear friend, Indran Amirdanayagam.
Thank you so much, Sandy. Thank you, Kim. It's really great to be back on Cultivating Voices Live. I'm a bit sheepish because despite all this world traveling and so on, I misunderstood the time difference. So I got here late. But
It
I'm
happens
here
to the best
and
of us, trust me.
I was in a bar earlier, I must admit, but it wasn't that. That wasn't the cause of it. Having a drink that was very, if I may dare to say it, English, though I'm an Irishman at heart. In fact, I wrote a poem about the connection between the Tamil cause and the Irish cause. You know, it was a concern of my grandmother, who was taught by Irish nuns. So, you know, we've got old stories coursing through us. And I'll read from White Space Sonnets, which is a new book just published in Sri Lanka by Sarasavi. I wanted to publish a book in my homeland, and I went back there last December, January, with my daughter, and published this book, which, if anyone's interested in it, you'll have to write to my email address, and I'll go from there. But or in Sri Lanka, you can find it, Sarasavi. It's a collection of sonnets, but I call them free verse sonnets. So yeah, there goes the rebel in me. I mean, they do have the appearance of sonnets, you know, the 14 lines, the volta and so on, but they're not quite to order in terms of the patterns set up by our forefathers and foremothers. Fawn in light. Light the candle when you wake. It will shine in the haze, help you make your way to wash, to dress, to prepare for the greater light of day. Or if the sun pauses behind a cloud for a few hours of gray, do not worry. Light you carry in heart and mind will warm and direct you to put melancholy away in a book written a long time ago up on your shelf. Consult it when you wish, just to know it has been overcome, made ink on paper, healed in verse, printed in past time. Now you have new light to guide, fawn ahead in the wood, looking at you with curious, wondrous eyes. Open window. Imagine this. We could meet over coffee or a meal and decide where to go next. The partnership already exists. The ship has left harbor. The plane is flying at 30,000 feet. But this squall is of concern. I know it comes from an unadulterated fear of the ancient curse that moved one Greek to write a tragedy, another a farce. But we can fly through it. We are as removed from and as close to Greece as the unity of time and place and action. We are on the same coast. The wind is up. Let us embrace, leave a trace in blood, write this page. The book is divided in 3 sections. The first one's called Love, and then War, and then Love Again. And the war taking place when I was writing these poems was the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. But of course, you know, I'm writing other poems these days with other wars in the background or in the foreground. Another poem from I'm also obsessed with deer in this book a little bit, and I see them every day as I walk, when I walk near my home in Rockville, Maryland. Doe and child. I'm not finished yet. My gaze is steady, my hands are firm. And the soothsayer reading my palm told me I would have 3, and the new mother would be bright and young, a doe leaping over the stream. I lay down my hat and take out camera and pen. This is no amusement for an older man. I'm here to play, and you, my love, I invite you to the dance of spring, the clawing closeness of summer, autumn leaves dropping, and bare branched winter. I represent all seasons now that your love courses through my blood and mind, my doe, my kind. And writing these poems, I have to write a poem about roses. So this one's called Launching Roses. Roses are a solid bet for your arsenal. They wake up the heart from its customary repose in the ennui of days, whiffs of perfume, buds opening, moments of redress, renewal, sense and scent coming together, all the disparate disappeared, and the newly jostling love knocking on the door of the heart, saying, cheer up. If spring is not coursing already, it is starting to sprout. And here are the harbingers, the first out of the trenches, the rose brigade throwing roses, blowing blossoms. Then I'll move to the section on war. I'm a migrant, as you know, The Migrant States, one of my books, Sandy mentioned. And the poetry of migration has been an obsession of mine ever since my first book, which a very lovely comment by A.K. Ramanujan. He wrote that, welcome to the poetry of migration. So that phrase stuck with me. And I'm going to sort of be trying to understand what that means as I keep writing as a poet. This poem is called From the War to Guinea with Love. The tradesman from Guinea has lived in Odessa for 14 years. He is afraid. In one day, all of Ukraine's airports shut down. In one night, heavy bombs fell just outside of town. They're falling now. Russian soldiers landed on the beach and are marching towards Kiev. The horror, the sadness, it is happening. Shock and awe, awful, wrath, madness. Chernobyl, symbol of nuclear death, has been captured. No reports yet on the state of the concrete. Where are we going? I listen to the trembling voice of my friend from Guinea. He says he will watch and wait for another day or two, huddle at home by his television in the apartment block. If fighting comes to this neighborhood, then he will call Guinea, ask to be flown out. How many diplomats has Guinea posted in Ukraine? How many cars and planes? Airports are shut, but the sea flows by Odessa. Our tradesman has lived there for 14 years. He knows people with boats. He has sold them houseware. He will ask them to take him away past the battleships to Guinea. And one more from this section. The title of the poem is I Still Can't Reach My Uncle, and that's said by Ilya Kaminsky. In the wake of tragedy, we turn to those we know, to say hello, to ask if they have news of family and friends. I remember during the first days after the tsunami, the wrenching silence of not knowing the whereabouts of my brother, his wife and children, and then seeing their names on a list of survivors, feeling relief for a while before reading the story of a fellow citizen who lost 26 members of his extended family, swept out to sea at Trincomalee, while I could go to bed knowing my brother was safe. Ilya cannot find his uncle. I wish you good luck, my friend. I hope you will get news soon from him, from some safe place across the border or in a bomb shelter. Let me move on to Love Again. Morning letter. It will come naturally from need and loss. Where are you this morning? Did you run yesterday in the morning or evening? When you went to the store, did you find that bearded fellow among the tomatoes? I admit I depend on your news. Send a note when you can. I too visit local places, market and park, even church on occasion, from a persistent nostalgia. What shall we plan for today? I have started to write a lesson plan for our French studies. I wait eagerly for the first class to share what I learned in the Outre-mer. As I've written elsewhere, we share the same sea and coast now, even though we cannot step in exactly the same waters at the same time. We know from previous studies of experience, Zoom can serve as deus ex machina, resolve the gap between the first step and the second. Also in this book, there is my mother appears, today being Mother's Day in various countries, not actually in Argentina, but where I am at the moment, but of course in the US and in Peru and various places. And she passed 2 years ago now, January. So this poem, I will read one for my mother to finish, but let me read this now. This one's called Leaves. I'm obsessed with Whitman, as we all are, I guess. And so this one is called Leaves, Status Report. I've been cooking, yes, and going for walks, using the apnea machine, reading for class, attending meetings for the new job, and dreaming about my love, and standing near my mother, encouraging her to get up, roaming the internet for words I've not yet spoken, and pictures of old bottles I may never again peruse. Given the circumstances, on earth, a little space and all that. But I digress. As Trismegistus did, to stave off the visiting reaper. So I keep good company, the final frontier pushed off for another day by persistent cultivation of mushrooms popping on the lawn after rain, beside leaves gathered already by Walt, the gardener I hired to refresh my game. So Walt has become my gardener now. Pumping metaphors. I'm hedging all bets in this epic meditation. Love informs the lines, and I expect the golden oil will pump for decades to come. Then how to account for dregs in the abandoned field? The mine that raised half the mountain before being left behind a gash, a memory, and a still polluted water table. Love does not contaminate, it lifts the spirit, heals. Still, loves that inspire poets are usually embraced, consumed. This epistolary business exists on a different plane, not any less valid, but the basic desire for release looks for a partner, someone who will hug and kiss the speaker back. And I'll close with this poem again about my mother. I don't know how much time I have. If there is time and you want me to read one of my a poem in Spanish from the new book, I can do that. Let me know. All right. I will read this and then I will conclude with the poem from this book, which also, if anyone's interested, it's called Isla Itinerante, Wandering Island, which is the metaphor, I think, that captures my sort of autobiography. Recompense. There is always more than one love, one task, one compromise. My mother has become a child again, although she resists falling down. She wants to feed herself, but food falls on her blouse. She wants to walk, but stiffens and leans back, not forward, unbalanced. She falls. She used to walk to church at dawn, then return to make egg hoppers, ladling the dough in the pan, so all the kids would wake up to a hopper feast. She dreams of the taste, those days, and here in Can Do America, we must find a solution. Look for a Sri Lankan grocery, buy the implements, study the recipe, make hoppers for my mother for the first time. Yeah, so one of those things, making hoppers for your mother for the first time. And I'll read a poem from Isla Itinerante, the title poem. Now, I'll tell you it. Let me. It's It's on page 31, by the way. Anyway, and it goes like this, and I'll tell you about the poem a bit afterwards, if you like. Isla itinerante. Soy una isla que se mueve sobre la faz de la tierra. Me muevo adentro y me muevo afuera. Nunca me quedo tranquilo en unos brazos, en la mesa de una cocina. Nunca me quedo abrazado y guardado en una joyería. No me atrapa ninguna pareja, pero mis hijos sí. Ellos me detienen por un rato y me muevo de nuevo con un poema. Detrás de una chica, al observar un pájaro. Soy pacífico, nunca aprendí a cazar con armas. Le pido disculpas a mi abuelo, gran hombre, pero de su tiempo. Ahora estamos frente a una crisis distinta, la desaparición repentina de 40 o más por ciento de las especies en esta tierra donde me muevo, y estoy muriéndome lejos de mi patria, aunque me pregunto cuál será la patria del poeta. Te doy 3 posibles respuestas: el verso, la metáfora, la página en blanco. So I'm talking about this. I'm an island that moves over the face of the earth. I move inside of myself, I move outside. I'm never tranquil in somebody's arms. At the table, at the kitchen table, I never remain embraced and kept in a jewelry box. No couple traps me, but my children, yes, for a while. And then I move again with a poem. Behind a woman observing a bird, I'm pacific. I never learned to hunt with arms. I ask forgiveness from my grandfather, a great man, but of his time. Now we are facing a different crisis, the sudden disappearance of 40 or more percent of the species on this earth where I move. And I'm dying far away from my country. Although I ask myself, what is the country for a poet? I give 3 possible answers: the verse, the metaphor, the blank page. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Indran. It reminds the final poem really reminds me also. It's a poem of more migrant states. I mean, spiritual, metaphorical, as well as physical. The new book is White Space Sonnets, and I'll just say you are in good company with people writing in free verse sonnets, of course. I am thinking of Terrence Hayes, like comes right to mind, like they are, and I particularly love the sonnet box that is not the sonnet, uh, and the different variations on that magic box, and the lyricism uh, that can come from breaking out of the box of the sonnet. Uh, Incredible, incredible.
To show up there.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Don. Thanks, Kim.
Thank you, Sandy and Don, and thank you everyone for your patience.
And thank you, Indran and Lana, of course. Uh, again, the book is White Space Sonnets, and you can contact Indran directly through his Substack to order the collection. And that information, of course, will, I think Kim will put everything in the chat maybe once again, since we probably have lost our ability to see the chat prior. And of course, those will be on our Facebook page tomorrow. Well, I'm going to introduce our final reader for today. And I want to just say that Lana Heckman Ayers has talked about on many places, including the Rattlecast, and other spaces where she's given readings, that people kind of consider her the poet of grief and death, and you've talked about that quite extensively. And interestingly enough, today, the new book is Still Life with Sorrow and Joy. But what I wanted to say about that moniker that kind of follows you around is that in looking through, absorbing this new collection, which is absolutely stunning, gorgeous, beautiful. I'm reading the poem "Hungry," where you have an epigraph from your dear mentor, really a person who you'll talk about, I know, so I'm not going to say much, but you begin with the line, "Come with your pockets full of contemplation, with your jangly coins and restless fingers. Come unannounced by contrails or heralded by crows who notice everything and every one of us." You know, I think that fine line between life and death is one so deserving of all our contemplations. And so, in that regard, I actually view you as a poet of contemplation. I view you as like the exquisite poet of contemplation, the depth that you go in a poem. Uh, I would travel anywhere to travel with you in your poems. I love where you take your work, and I'm really grateful that we get to honor you, your new book, and your work here today, even with the trickster in action. So, without further ado, let me share the formal biography of Lana Heckman Ayers. Lana Heckman Ayers is a former New Yorker whose favorite color is the swirl of Van Gogh's The Starry Night. She's shepherded over 150 poetry titles into print as managing editor of 3 presses. And there are some folks in this room who are the incredible beneficiaries of your amazing vision, Lana. Still Life with Sorrow and Joy, the Poetry Box 2026, is her most recent collection, and she has poems appearing in the Bluebird Word, Peregrine, One Art, and elsewhere. And from her home in Oregon, on clear, quiet nights, she can hear the Pacific Ocean whispering to the moon. And are we ever grateful that we get to hear you whisper some poems to us this afternoon, evening, wherever you are, wherever we all are in our various time zones. Thank you, Lana, and so sorry for the technology glitch.
Oh, thank you, Sandy. I think that's the universe trying to spare everyone from my poetry. I really do. But you guys are brave for coming back. And thank you for mentioning Patricia Fargnoli. I feel like none of my books would exist without her because she believed in me and she told me my poems should be in the world. And I mean that's the reason they are. So thank you, Patricia. Okay, now I'm gonna cry. The poems of Still Life with Sorrow and Joy do contend with grief and loss and aging and death. But I present these poems not to depress anyone, but to offer comfort and companionship as we all journey toward some great unknowable ending. Thank you to Kim and Sandy for inviting me here, for Don helping behind the scenes. Thank you to everyone in the audience. And I give a special shout out to Deborah DeWitt. You showed the book, but I mean, her painting is just stunning and makes for such beautiful book covers. She's an Oregon painter, and she's been so generous with her art. And this painting is called Love Letters, and it's graces the cover and is on the wall on the right side of my desk, and I admire it every day. And thanks to Sean Aveningo Sanders for her beautiful cover design. It has been a delight to be here with these brilliant, brilliant poets. I'm going to start with a poem called Heaven on Earth. Kinda. I want the dead to stop dying immediately, retroactively even. I can't handle another dead dog, dead ant, dead lover, dead plumber, dead fly even. Why can't we all just live forever? Learn to eat less, tighten our belts, scrunch ourselves to occupy smaller spaces. Cats do it all the time. Or maybe grow wings, go aloft, mingle with all those buzzy flies who won't be dying either. Live in balcony tiers in the stratosphere, a sky full of people blocking out the sun, the sunrise, the sunset. Sounds like hell to you, doesn't it? The overcrowding, the dark, the starving, the stink. But just think how sweet it would be if your grandma and her grandma too were still around to kiss all your boo-boos. And look, there's great, 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 great Uncle Carl waving, rising above the moon, saying, grab a beer and head up soon. The barbecue on Cloud 9 starts at noon. Um, this next one is a true story. I've always had cats and dogs. I love animals. They're my fur babies. And so this is a true story. Dear dead Sylvia in cat heaven, it may have seemed to you as if your brother cat, Luis Rocket, did not return your affections. His warning hisses as you neared, claws out, paw swipes to your ears, sudden barrage of nape bites. Now, nuzzling his muzzle to the fabric that still holds your scent, he oversleeps in your chair. He stares up at your empty perch in the cat tree, mewling softly. He's stopped washing his head. All this proof the living are never more lovable to us than when dead. This one is called Leave a Message. Each day I long for the metric trill of a defunct rotary phone plugged into the void like on a Twilight Zone episode. Your hyacinth voice from the other side saying, things are good here, except I really, really miss you. Don't our lost loved ones miss us and the spring peepers, rain on the roof, and the moon winking or full-eyed? Or is it all baking bread scents in heaven, great sex, strolls on the beach, gazing at this blue ball our earth is? Or is it only us missing them? Their life forces like wild rivers we forded on rafts of forever love. To them, maybe we're not even distant memories, just nagging gnats to swat at eternity's endless picnic. Perhaps the conclusion of life is the one true answer. Pencils down, books snapped shut, everyone there gets an A. We, the living, here, forlorn, Merely gumball machine treasures locked away in cedar chests our beloved dead no longer have any use for. I'm going to read these next two poems in honor of Sandy, as they do have a water connection. So here they are. Here's the first of the two. I once sat at the edge of the world on a pier overlooking the royally steely waves of Puget Sound. A cormorant, darker than death's own angel a few feet away, brooding on a rotted pylon, took no notice of me, though I wished for him to fetch me under his enormous wings and carry me off to somewhere I'd never been. And if I'm honest with myself, that wasn't what I really wanted. What I really wanted was to be someone else, live in a different body, have a different vision of voice and mind. Or else I wanted to stare into the depths below me until I liquefied, became one with the wild currents. I stayed until the wind stole my hat that had been my father's, a gray fedora with a grain band, and it landed atop the water,
Oh, wonderful.
bobbed along a vessel on a perilous journey. And I watched and watched until it sailed beyond the horizon, sailed off the edge of the world without me. And this next poem is the entire poem is kind of a metaphor for how it feels to look at the world through grief and loss. And it's also true. I've never been successful at wearing progressive lenses. I bifocals only for me. So this poem is New Progressive Lenses. My left eye sees only Monet, French ultramarine sunrise sky, cobalt blue pools of lilies, muffled shade where envy grows. The other eye knows Chagall, levitating cats, violins, bent backward brides who never think to ask, chickens big enough to ride. It was always raining inside with my old eyeglass prescription. Fallen apples and wood smoke choked my throat, my vision too watertight. Light isn't an answer. Light's a shipwreck. These next couple are pretty short. Uh, this one is called, I think the title is longer than the poem. Today, a friend told me about a haiku poet's suicide. April Hale, elegy written in vanishing ink. News of your death. A break in the storm after too many days of storm. Trampled grass, broken limbs, leaves washed clear. The sky, a blue door that opens both ways. Okay, and this is my next to final poem. My dad was quite a joker and was always trying to make people smile. So I hope this one will make you smile. It's called Writing Your Own Epitaph. It's easier than you might think. What letters should be engraved in the heavy quarry stone or laminated in gold on plaque beset in the wall of the mausoleum, or simply printed onto memorial trifolds to be handed out at your funeral? The key is to be brief, pithy, to mean well. My dad requested his epitaph at a time when words didn't come easily, or when they did, made little sense. The cancer having metastasized to his brain having been erased by the radiation. And still, one moment, not long before his end, he looked at all us sober souls sadly loitering by his hospital bedside and said, "Here's what I want on my tombstone. I felt better yesterday." And we laughed. After we left his room for the night, Mother said, "No way." But then Daddy died, and my mother did something she'd never done in my lifetime of knowing her. She relented. Visiting Dad's grave over the years, it never ceases to amaze me how strangers strolling by, catching sight of his epitaph, point, laugh, sometimes a little titter, other times an outright guffaw, in a place where laughter is largely absent. I want that too, an epitaph that's a final act of kindness to strangers. My dad's favorite dad joke: "What do you call cheese that isn't yours?" "Nacho cheese." So that's my epitaph, folks. And this is the last poem. Um, and they say when you have a brush with death, your life passes before your eyes. So this is one possible of my highlight reels of many. So here we go. This is the final poem. What stays? Daddy's Daddy's eyes, blue as milk glass morning glories. The way clouds can take the shape of unvoiced desires. Cedar trees waving their arms like passengers leaving for a long journey on the high seas. Rainbow parrotfish nibbling my toes in the balmy waters of Bermuda. Shy fireflies in childhood's hydrangeas. The night meteors arced across the sky, spelling out my grandmother's name. The way the moon followed me home to be sure I arrived safely. My grandfather spinning the wheel and winning a teddy bear for me at the fair. My cat Frederico snatching a toy helicopter out of the air and dropping it at my feet. My little black dog Layla snuggled next to me, her muzzle warm as a mug of cocoa. The moment my beloved knelt down in the sand on one knee and said, "Forever." Thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming back.
I wouldn't have missed it for anything. I would have created a whole new program just to bring you back if it hadn't happened. What I'm reminded of with the final poem, What Stays, you know, the catalog of what stays. And it takes me right back to Nessa, the memory of habits, the habits of memory. And I'm thinking that Lana and Nessa, I'm not about shoulds, but you both are really amazing editors. I feel there's an anthology of habits of memory, memory of habits. I can see a whole anthology on this theme, and I feel like you're the two to do it. International anthology. I'm just saying. I'm just saying what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying today. That's all I'm saying. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. This, what a constellation the four of you have made. I could feel as the program was getting closer that we were in for just some exquisite poetry, literally from all around the world, and and an invitation to be with our home languages and also to be really with the elements, earth, sky. There wasn't a lot of fire today, except the trickster, I think, was the fire, and so much water. Folks, would you please unmute and show your appreciation for our resilience today in we kept the poetry going in the face of the trickster trying to get us to not listen.
Bravo,
Thank you.
bravo,
Thank
Hey,
you.
Andy.
Thank you.
thank you so much,
Hooray.
everyone.
Thank you.
What an
Thank
Well
you.
done. Well
exquisite.
done, Russell, getting back in.
Yeah, thank you, Judith. Thank you. Yeah, and to all of you who got back in, I'm thinking about the door opened both ways. The blue, I don't know if it was a blue door, but blue door opened many ways today, and they all led to some incredible poetry. Thank you so much, Michael Durak, Nessa O'Mahony, Indran Amir the Nigam, and Lana Heckman Ayers for our new book showcase for May. We here at Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, we cannot do the program without Kim Ports Parsons and Don Krieger, and of course, all of you for being here. Those of you in the Zoom room with us, you steadfast folks, you plowed right back in. You didn't miss a beat. You came right back in faster than I could get back. You were here. I walked in and the room was full. Bravo, bravo, everyone. And of course, to all of you watching us on the recording, the hundreds of you that watch us every week on our recordings. Next week, my friends, it is our May finale. It is our wild card open mic. Can it get more wilder than today? I don't know. Come back and make it wild next week here on the open mic. Signups begin 15 minutes before the program begins at the top of whatever hour you are in, according to your time zone. And again, I wish you all, those of you who are in parts of the world celebrating Mother's Day, I wish you and your families a joyous celebration. And I wish those of you not celebrating Mother's Day to celebrate the divine feminine that exists every day. Right, Kim? Every day, right? That's right. And to all of you, I wish you a week full of poetry that sustains you. Take good care of yourselves. Take exquisite care of your beloveds. And keep writing your miraculous poems. We have never needed them more than right now. I'm Sandy Yanone for Cultivating Voices Live Poetry, and we will see you next week. Have a good one, everyone. Thank you.
Dawn.
Thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Sandy, you as the host can stop the recording, but I can no longer do that.
Oh, I will stop the recording.